Hello, and welcome to this special and evening edition of Unraveling the Media Webs of the Sochi Games, brought to you by the CSLA San Antonio news crew. I am Amanda Bishop, and tonight we are jumping straight into the controversy surrounding this year's 2014 Sochi Olympic Games. The Olympic Games have always been a nail-biting and exciting event, but this year there was a new possibility that left many nervous to not only watch, but to attend the 2014 Sochi events. News analysis from 89 participating countries, as well as a few non-participating countries, were zoned in on the city of Sochi, providing coverage of the competitions and the terrorist threats stemming from a terrorist group known as the Black Widows. Who are these Black Widows, some of you may ask? Well, it's no longer just an extremely poisonous spider. My colleague Shelby is going to further elaborate on these Black Widows.
Thank you, Amanda. And good evening, everyone. I'm Shelby Smith. The Black Widow terrorists are a group of Chechen female terrorists labeled as living bombs or brides of Allah by the United States media. In their home country of Russia, they are known as Shadika, which is the Russian feminine derivation of Shahid, meaning a Muslim martyr. According to a BBC article titled UK Officials Warn Terror Attacks, very likely published on January 26 of 2014, there has been one female whose identity has been revealed as belonging to the Black Widow group by the name of Ruzana Ibragimova. In the article, Dagestan Black Widow Bomber Kills Russian Police, it is stated that Russia has a history of women suicide bombers known as the Black Widows. There are claims there are more than 3 women could possibly be assisting by the Olympic attack, but the group as a whole has over 40 female suicide bombers. As it can be seen by these two very different labels, broadcasts do not cover all news about these women in the same manner. Tonight we'll be having a roundtable discussion with 2 of our very own media experts, Claudia and Lauren Cesmirosky, from our local and international headquarters, where we'll discuss more in depth about these Black Widows and just what kind of effects they have in America and news around the world. Claudia, Lauren, welcome. Please introduce yourselves and give a little background on how you became experts in media analysis.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me here today. I knew when I first read this story that I was going to be immediately intrigued. I read many articles over and over again on the topic. I watched different interviews, I studied the background of the Black Widows, I found themes of each one and connected them back to each other. I asked myself what they all had in common. What didn't they have in common? Why did this stuff happen? It wasn't easy, but to fully understand, I found it vital to know every detail. Whether it was written in news articles, books, I analyzed and scribed what I got from this information, and now here I am to inform you all about the American media and how they're reporting over the Black Widows and the terrorist threats today.
So much for having us. Hello everyone, I'm Lauren Cesmirosky. I am a British media expert and I'm constantly researching and studying the topics that the British media is presenting to our people. I have spent quite a lot of time researching the 2014 Sochi Olympic Games coverage and especially focusing on the Black Widow terrorist group. I have reviewed and analysed multiple articles on the topics published by the BBC and am now able to confidently speak and inform others about how this situation is being presented and how it affects British media outlets. I have read these articles and watched newscasts while taking notes and analysing my notes on the pieces. I've been able to take the main points from all of the articles to decide which information are key factors about how we present these pieces of information to the public. I'm very excited to share my research findings with you today.
So much. Before we get into the Black Widow story, can you tell me a little more about the freedom of the press and the political situation in the United States and UK, respectively?
Sure, Amanda. You know, right now, the United States at the moment in time is run by a Democratic president who is a liberal leader. It means that the U.S. is working to reform their policies and act as a progressive society. The freedom of press is very open and not as government controlled as many other countries due to the First Amendment. This prohibits the government from interfering with the freedom of press and their speech.
According to the textbook by Global Communication by Thomas McPhail, European media companies work to meet the increasing demand for European-produced programming and reflect the unique identities of Europeans. We work on a more factual basis and work to uncover stories as a whole and the reasons behind them instead of speculations that reports might come to. England is a democracy governed within the framework of a constitutional monarchy, where there is a royal family, but all of the power is in Parliament.
Miss Bell, how is CNN covering the possible terrorist threats to the 2014 Sochi Olympic Games?
The U.S. is very concerned with these incoming threats. We want the public to be informed as possible by providing the hard facts that are needed to create awareness about these threats and the women sending them. The CNN article, Will Black Widows Other Terrorists Stalk the Sochi Games? The Russian security operation surrounding the Sochi Winter Olympics is massive and multi-layered, but it only takes one flaw for terrorists to strike. Therefore, we are planning a lot of military presence in the Sochi region to prevent an attack on our American athletes and spectators. CNN wants the citizens of America to understand just as much as the people on the scene know. Along with informing the American people of the situation at hand, we are trying to properly prepare our country for the possible dangers our friends and loved ones may be in. U.S. Congressman Mike Rogers expressed his concern. The Russian ambassador says he's certain Olympics will be safe, giving us the full story about what are the threat streams. Who do we need to worry about? Are those groups, the terrorist groups who had some success? Are they still plotting? The concerns of the U.S. are that as a whole, we are not sure Putin's actions are valid as what he has claimed to do to prepare and secure the country in case of a terrorist attack.
And Ms. Cesmirosky, do you feel that the BBC coverage differs from this?
Here at BBC, we are trying to keep the public informed of these threats, but do not feel that we need to over-dramatize the situation until all the information on the threats is obtained. What we are more interested in is the history of these women and why they commit the crimes that they do. These female suicide bombers use their religious practices and their deceased husbands as a reason to kill themselves in massive public suicide. As stated in the article Black Widow, Love, Blackmail or Suggestibility by the BBC, between fanatical faith and a passionate love a lot in common. A man in love is always in some sense insane. Is this the reason that they do this?
The threats towards the Olympic Games affected your daily news programs?
You know, we are concerned, but we are not putting an emphasis on the threats. According to the CNN article, Will the Black Widows Other Terrorists Stalk the Sochi Games? With an estimated 100,000 Russian security personnel involved in protecting the Games, and everything from drones to submarines, and extensive cyber security mobilized in a massive counterterrorism operation, the prospect of an attack on the Olympic venue seems slight. Therefore, we are really trying to focus on our athletes in the sense of honor and pride for our country, which is what the Olympics are all about. Of course, we are concerned with any threat that is made towards our citizens, but we are also very excited for the Games and how the athletes will represent our country. We know the possibility of a terrorist attack, but we don't want to unnecessarily scare our citizens when this is supposed to be a time of celebration for all of the world's countries coming together.
Our daily news coverage has been greatly affected by this terrorist group. We have dedicated special editions to our daily news, such as new warnings for American headings to the Olympics and Sochi's Black Widow threat, to keep the public informed and safe. We have also posted precautionary measures that Americans should take if they are choosing to visit the Sochi region in case of the Black Widow attack. It is a very violent and worrisome matter, but at CNN, we feel that broadcasting the threats often will better prepare our society and everyone else.
What are your main concerns, and what do you feel is most important when presenting the news to your citizens?
Well, our main concern throughout this process has been what the Russian government is doing to ensure the safety of our American visitors and our athletes. It is vital that our citizens know every aspect and detail of the situation and what security is available to keep everyone there safe. Putin claims he has responded to the concerns of the U.S. lawmakers by assuring his country will do whatever it takes to protect athletes and visitors. Trying to show the world how far Russia has come, modernizing itself from the way old Russia handled conflict by preventing risks to all visiting countries, their athletes, their media, and their citizens. The concerns of the U.S. are that as a whole, we are not Putin's actions are as valid as what he has claimed to do to prepare and secure the country in case of a terrorist attack.
The BBC is more concerned about what situations provoke an attack by the Black Widows. As written in an article we published on January 26, 2014, titled How Safe Are the Games, we have found that the Black Widows don't have a history of attacking non-Russian people or places. Their only interest is Russia, not the West. Therefore, we are not as focused on pointing out signs of suspicious behaviour, but rather trying to understand why they do what they do. We want to inform our viewers why these women are, in a way, sacrificing their lives for their dead husbands and why they are targeting the Olympics.
Thank you, ladies. We've learned some great information regarding the American and British news outlets concerning the Sochi Games. The United States news coverage takes a more cautious approach and seeks out all the possible threats on topics concerning the Black Widow terrorists, pointed out by Ms. Bell. According to Ms. Cesmirosky, the European news reports differ because they are more concerned with reporting facts and background information about these female terrorists and why they do what they do. The British were not preparing for any military retaliation at the Winter Games. We have learned a lot today, thanks to our media experts.
Countries' media balance each other. Although many of our questions were answered, there are still a few things we would like to know, including what will happen in the event of a Black Widow showing up at the Sochi Olympics? Is there a plan B in case of an attack? What is being done to assure that these Black Widows are being caught instead of government just focusing on keeping them away for the safety of everyone? These questions will be covered next week in another special edition of Unraveling the Media Webs of the Sochi Games. Reporting from CSLA, I'm Shelby Smith.
And I'm Amanda Bishop. Thank you and good night.